Good morning. Welcome back to the Broadcast Retirement Network. I'm Jeff Snyder. This is BRN AM for Friday, April 9th, 2021. And here are our top stories. Training work from home employees on cybersecurity and shoring up small towns and municipalities' cybersecurity protocols. Well, joining me now to discuss this and a lot more is Kevin Urso. He is the president and founder of Connected Technologies, LLC. Kevin, great to see you. Thanks so much for joining us on the program this morning.
Good morning, Jeff. How are you?
I'm doing great. It's great to see you as well. Hope you had a great holiday. Let's jump in because remote work, a lot of people have done it, continue to do it, and it looks like it has created opportunities for hackers, and therefore it creates opportunities for better training of employees. Why don't you get you to weigh in here?
Yeah, definitely. So as people moved away from their secure office networks, right, you plug it into your home network and it works, but it may not be necessarily secure. So the hackers know that you have some open holes there, and they're using that to gain access and then use it as a stepping stone into your corporate network. So having that end user training program in place is very important because your employees and your staff become your first line of defense.
Yeah, look, I mean, you're only as good as your weakest link. I mean, that is a old cliche, but one that I think rings true, especially in this case. And, Kevin, is it a lack of awareness? So let me ask you this. Is it A, lack of awareness, B, lack of company education, or C, just people being lazy, or all of the above and not, lazy meaning they're not lazy, but they're lazy in terms of not thinking about this. So is it some of these, all of these, what?
Yeah, so I would say it's a combination of all of them. It's not necessarily that they're lazy. They want to be the one that clicks on the link, right? It's just that, you're busy during the day. It's not what you focus on. You're focused on getting your job done, meeting that deadline. And, the hackers are it's become more of a social engineering attack than it is even a technical attack. So they they'll figure out how you work, what you do, and they'll craft their attack to look just like what you do every single day. And they fool you into running an application, clicking on a link, doing something that allows them the first entry point into the system. So the awareness for the end user it's very, very important to make them aware, because a lot of people don't even realize this is happening,
Yeah, and these hackers are extremely sophisticated. I was reading something online this morning before our interview about them replicating DocuSign, and we all use DocuSign when we're signing loan agreements, financial agreements, all sorts of things. The sophistication here is impeccable, incredible. And I'm not admiring it for the sense, but it is unbelievable how sophisticated these people are becoming. And once they get entry, Kevin, they just come in and it's almost like water flooding in through a hole, right? They just seep in and they have access to everything.
Yeah. So what will typically happen is once they get access, they may not actually do anything for a long period of time. Typically it's maybe 2, 3, we see sometimes 6 months to a year, and they watch what you're doing and they learn about you. Are you the CEO? Are you the, what access do you have? And they use that to get further entrenched into the systems until they get to a point when they finally pull the trigger. There's pretty much no return. You need to be able to recover from a backup or something at that point.
Yeah. Now that we have everyone kind of nervous, I think they are nervous. I think employers, employees, everyone's nervous. You don't want to be the one at fault creating this. You don't want to have this happen to your organization. Let's get some ideas about training, because I know when we had you on the last few times, you had talked about regular, maybe like tutorials or email blasts to reach people and remind them. Is that still a good rule of thought? Good rule, or are there other tactics and techniques people can use?
Yeah, so I think that's very important. Going back a few years, companies would do once a year training, and they would say, "Oh, we checked it off the list," right? What it really needs to be is a continuous and constant training and reminder system. So, like we offer it's a portal that the company enrolls all their employees into. They go through that once a year training and they take their test. But then what it does is every week it sends a little 2-minute video. And those videos are things that are happening right now. So of course, over the last year, it's been watch out for the coronavirus email, watch out for the World Health Organization email. And it just keeps that top of mind. The other thing it does is it lets the company track who's actually doing it, who's not doing it. And I would say my biggest tip for this is you have to almost gamify this for your employees. So make some incentive for them to do it. We have a client who did a terrific job with this. The CEO said, I'm going to make this a focus for my company. And he took all the trainings, he took all the tests, he got himself up to like a 99% average. And he said to his employees, I want you to knock me off the top. Whoever knocks me off and beats me, I'm going to buy lunch. He makes this a continual thing. And he tracks it. And their scores have gone through the roof. It's been a total change.
Well, yeah, look, incentives work. I mean, how many times, if someone offers you a free iPad or a gift card, I'd be more apt to do something. And if you do it in this piecemeal approach, Kevin, it really does work. I mean, in today's environment, most videos, I know with our own show, the first 8 to 10 minutes, it's typically what people watch at the beginning.
Right.
And so you've got to really narrow this down, but also make it consumable. I mean, you don't want to bombard people, I guess, with technical jargon. That might turn some people off. So in a way, you've got to be entertaining and educational at the same time.
Definitely. Yeah, you got to make it where they're going to watch it. Little points, something that's going to, when they're about to click on that email, it's going to pop on their head and say, pause for a second. And that's really what you're trying to get them to do, is make that pause and just not move forward.
Yeah, I mean, this is like putting your shoes on, putting your socks on, getting ready for work. This is part of all of our jobs, whether we're a big company, a small company, a not-for-profit, a government. Well, Kevin, I want to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll talk about how towns and municipalities can shore up their cybersecurity protocols. You're going to want to stay tuned right here on BRN AM. Imagine a new television network that will make you richer, healthier, and in control of your financial future. This network is for the policewoman in Nashville, Tennessee, the baker in Dubuque, Iowa, the teacher in Lexington, Kentucky. We want to make the idea of savings and retirement culturally relevant. But what do you see as a defining issue of the midterms, especially for the smaller businesses? I mean, they are the lifeblood of the American economy. Featuring exclusive interviews, current affairs, and docuseries. 33 years old, you retired early.
The philosophy is money only matters if it helps you live a life that you love.
But you got to start thinking about retirement as soon as you get in.
The Broadcast Retirement Network will drive very high engagement with premium partnerships. So this isn't retirement and savings for your parents or grandparents. This is for all Americans. And we're going to change the way you think about money. Welcome to the next frontier of retirement and savings. This is BRN, the Broadcast Retirement Network.
Are you stuck with a low credit score? A credit report and score that's causing you to be denied credit or pay higher interest rates than others for the same things? Then do what Terrence did and call Credit Repaired for your free credit evaluation to help restore your credit.
I started thinking about buying a new house, and my score wasn't where I needed it to be. I called and spoke with one of the representatives, and we just had a good conversation, and I liked what he was saying.
Just one call for his free credit evaluation was all it took to start back on the track to repairing his credit.
I'm seeing the deletions and I'm getting the report, so I know something's being done. It does make a difference to me.
All it takes is one call to get started.
Credit repair has given me a second chance to have a better credit score.
Don't let a low credit score hold you back another day. Do what Terrence did and make the call for your free credit evaluation.
Call 800-819-4152. That's 800-819-4152. Again, 800-819-4152.
Welcome back. We're talking to Kevin Urso of Connected Technologies LLC. Kevin, thanks so much for staying with us this morning.
No, thank you. It's fun.
So let's jump from educating our employees and employers about the retention of continuing to do education, and let's talk about shoring up some of these cyber security protocols in cities and towns. You know, we had the SolarWinds hack that you and I talked about several months ago. So things happening at the federal government, and we've also seen some hacks happen at public utilities and other aspects of government, especially during the coronavirus. What can you say about improving the cybersecurity protocols that exist today for many municipalities, cities, and towns?
Yeah, so I think the first thing they have to realize is they are probably the number one target. I would say small government and small education is what hackers are going after. And the reason they are is they're the low-hanging fruit, and they have some valuable information, or they can cause some disruptive damage. You know, so if you shut down a small town, maybe, you know, people can't do whatever, you know, they can't register their car, they can't the water, you know, the electric, who knows? So there are it's some real pain, and they're probably going to get paid to release the pain through the insurance company or whatever, you know, means they have.
Is it important, you know, when you're thinking about these town managers? I mean, you live on Long Island. There are many towns there, and I'm sure they have different city councils, county councils, et cetera. Is cyber taking up more of those conversations? I mean, Corona, obviously a big deal, getting people back to work, but there's opportunity, as you mentioned, there's opportunity for hackers to come in, and once they get their foot in the door, it's not just now, 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, they have access to driver's records, personal license information, everything, right?
Yeah, so I think there's definitely some room for improvement in that area. So what I see is we come in, we do the assessment, we give them a laundry list of things, because usually the networks are pretty old and need some updating. And we give them that laundry list of things to fix, and it goes to a board or something, and then it stops. And it never really moves past that approval process. So I think the boards, these organizations, they need to make this a bigger priority, because they are going to see some damage. And
and not just the government, the people in the town, the people in the municipality. One of the things I thought was interesting, and we've seen this with corporations, is the ransomware, the concept of ransomware, where a hacker finds his or her way in, and then they hold some data hostage. They say, we're not going to release anything if you pay us X number of dollars. And I would think that these towns, because of the amount of data that they hold Social Security number information, they hold driver's license information, they hold very important, maybe tax assessment information. Leaking that out would be very costly in a number of ways in terms of trust, but also dollars. This is a big concern as well, that ransomware.
Yeah, and it's actually twofold. So the hackers know that these towns, they probably have a pretty large insurance policy. Not necessarily for cyber, but in general. So they know that there's a policy there that they can go after and make some money. They know they're going to get paid, basically. The other thing we're seeing is, even if the organization has some type of backup system or disaster recovery, the type of information these organizations have, like you mentioned, tax information, driver's license, they say, okay, fine, you can recover, but we're still going to release your information out on the public internet if you don't pay us. So that's almost just as bad as shutting them down for a few weeks, because now you've had a breach of all this data. Yep. So it's more than just being able to recover for them.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry for interrupting. I was just going to follow up with, is what we talked about in segment 1, the educational component. Is it educating? So think about the constituencies here. You've got people that work you've got the politician, you've got the administrative people that are working for the government, but you also have the taxpayers, the people who are accessing. Do all 3 of those constituencies, maybe more that I'm not even thinking about, need to be educated in the same way? Would it behoove a town, municipality to undertake a similar educational approach to what you were describing in segment 1?
Yeah, definitely. And, to make it a little bit more complicated for them is a lot of these smaller towns, they have like little micro offices throughout the county, let's say, so you have people in a small office with 2 people working, right? But they can be the entry point just as if the big office with 20 or 30 people. And that's a little bit more challenging to try to keep those people in the loop and up to speed on what's going on with the cyber.
Yeah, I mean, Kevin, both of us grew up in I'm older than you are, but grew up in the 80s, the computer era, the 70s, the 80s, the 90s. And I remember things like Spybot, remember Norton's antivirus and some of these other platforms. I mean, it just isn't good enough to have those basic packages anymore. I mean, really, you have got to have algorithmic software that can spread its tentacles and kind of root out vulnerabilities. And that's what we're talking about. This level of sophistication is required both on the corporate level, in the corporate world, but also here in government.
Yeah. It's funny. I was talking to a person yesterday who we did assessment, and she said the same thing. I always installed the software. It was fine. I said, yeah, those days have kind of passed. Really, you need that software. And the key is that software has to report back home. So that's where, it comes back to our management system and tells us something's about to happen. That's really the key. You can't just let that software run and hope it's going to do its thing.
Yeah, well, it's certainly a dynamic field in a lot of ways, requiring dynamic leadership, dynamic experts like yourself, but also for those of us just in the general public to be dynamic and to do our best to learn. Kevin Urser, we're going to have to leave it there. Always a pleasure catching up with you. Really appreciate you sharing a little bit of your expertise, and we look forward to having you back on the program again very soon.
Great. Thanks a lot, Jeff. I appreciate it.
And that wraps up this episode of BRN AM. Have a topic of interest, someone you think we should talk to, then drop us a line. And don't forget, for all the information in retirement markets, technology, personal finance, so much more, all in one place, check out today's edition of our newsletter, The Morning Pulse, and of course, our website. We're back again tomorrow for BRN Weekly. We'll be joined by a very special guest and take a look back at some of our best segments for the week. So until then, I'm Jeff Snyder. Stay safe, keep on saving, and don't forget, roll with the changes.
Are you being audited and do you owe the IRS $10,000 or more in back taxes? Is the IRS threatening to take more of your money? Don't fight the IRS alone. The Tax Doctor is here to help you negotiate your tax bill and reduce your stress. The IRS can freeze your assets and seize your bank accounts, but you can stop these IRS actions. The Tax Doctor will work with you using our years of experience to represent your case to help you get the best resolution under the IRS guidelines. Help is here to deal with the IRS to reduce your stress. We've handled thousands of cases, so we know what we're doing. If you owe $10,000 or more in back taxes, do not call the IRS alone. Call a Tax Doctor now for a tax emergency analysis.
Call 800-224-6439.